Hello friends, welcome to the discussion of another topic pertaining to CSAT examination. Today's topic is data interpretation. If you have studied the previous year papers for CSAT examination, you must have found at least 1 to 2 questions based on data interpretation. In fact, in one particular year, there were around 12 to 13 questions which were based on data interpretation. So let us have a look at basic concepts and find out how we can solve the questions within no time with higher accuracy. When we talk about data interpretation, let's first of all have a look at the types of data it represents. One is through tables, where you have, let us say, rows and columns representing data for various heads. Then you have bar graphs, as you might have seen certain histograms like these to represent the data. Then we have pie charts, which are nothing but they are the circular representations of data. Then the line graphs, wherein you have a graph which has got x-axis and y-axis, and on the two axes the data is represented and marked, let us say, through a line which joins all the appropriate points. Caselets. Now caselets are when data is given to you in textual format. That is, the data is not given in terms of tables or bar graphs or line graphs or pie charts, but there is just textual mention of the data, looking at which you finally have to come up with a table or a bar graph in the rough. Now, by observing that table or the data represent that you have drawn in rough, you have to solve the questions. Then there are certain miscellaneous types as well, mostly the combinations of tables and pie charts or bar graphs and line graphs, or there could be something like a triangular representation or a scatter graph. Now this triangular representation or scatter graph that I'm talking about has never appeared in CSAT examination, and mostly it is a type which can be found in CAT or banking examinations. But primarily, these are the 4 types on which questions are asked in CSAT examination. Well, tabular representation of data. There is an example in front of you. The Indian T20 League. For that, a table is given to you. And what is that table? It is points table, the one that we eagerly wait for. Now, the teams are mentioned here. Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, Rajasthan, and so on. The number of matches that they have played, that is indicated in this column. Then number of matches won, number of matches lost, no result, the net run rate, and the points earned is what is represented through this table, so that we come to know about the comparative performance of the teams. Now this is another tabular representation of data, IPL 2018 points table, another way of representing the data here. The teams are written here in this column. Again, the matches won, lost, tied, no result, then the points and the net run rate. The data could be given to you in a table for a company's turnover or sales done over a period of 10 years. Or let us say the number of students who get admitted in a particular school in 5 years. So such kind of data is tabulated, and based on that data you are asked questions which you have to answer. Bar graph. Now these histograms that you see here are basically the bars. Now, once again, IPL 2019 power play scoring rate. Now, this is a bar graph representing the scoring rate, and these are the names of the teams here: Kolkata Knight Riders, Sunrisers Hyderabad, and so on. And these are the scoring rates: 8.66, 8.61, 7.75. So, the bar, which is also called the histogram, it's a vertical or it could be a horizontal rectangle which would represent the length of the data on a particular scale. So here 8.66, as you see, is the highest and 6.36 is the lowest. So here the data is flowing downwards towards the right from the highest to the lowest. Now another bar graph here, as you can see. Again, the name of the teams is written here, and this bar graph is about IPL 2018 number of matches won by the team. Now on the y-axis, the number of matches is indicated, and on the x-axis, the name of the teams is given. If you look at the legend here, this particular color represents the number of matches won, and the white color represents the number of matches lost. So clearly CSK here has won highest number of matches, let us say 5 as we see here, and they have lost only one match as we see here, whereas Mumbai Indians has won only one match and lost 5 matches. This must have been towards the beginning of the tournament, and obviously you're not supposed to take it to your heart, whatever may be the performance of the team of your liking. But to represent the number of matches won and matches lost, 2 bars are used. So hence this is basically a multiple bar graph where more than 1 bars are used to represent data for a particular team. Now in this bar graph, this is a horizontal bar graph, as you can see. These are the names of the teams, and if you just rotate this by 90 degrees in anti-clockwise direction, this would become a vertical bar graph. So once again, pace bowling average in IPL 2019 for various teams is given here, and you can compare. And the questions could be asked, which team has the lowest pace bowling average? That is DC. Which has the highest pace bowling average? That would be RCB. By what percent is KKR's pace bowling average more than that of Mumbai Indians? And so on. So once the data is given to you, there is a typical set of questions that I would discuss with you, which have been asked repeatedly. So you just have to refer to this data and answer those questions. Line graph. The line which is given here basically tells about the progress of a particular team when they're batting. So the number of runs scored in various overs. And this happens to be a multiple line graph because this line graph consists of basically 2 lines representing the runs scored when they are batting, so as to provide us with the comparison that in a particular over, what was the score of the 2 teams. So here, runs are given, here, overs are mentioned. Overs are 20, it's a T20 match. This particular line, the light grey line, is used to represent the scores of the team Chennai in 20 overs because they batted first, followed by Hyderabad, who are chasing, and currently they are in the 14th over, as is evident here. They are yet to chase this particular difference of runs, and they seem to be doing well here because both are at the same score. So it could be asked to you that in which over the score of the 2 teams was the same. Well, it is the same here as well. So near about in the 12th over, here in the 14th over. So these 2 instances. And the commentators basically, they call this a worm. You see what is a worm, right? So such kind of a represent basically is used again for comparison between the scores of the 2 teams in various overs. Then the pie chart. Pie, as you see, is more like a pizza, isn't it so? A circular one with various portions in it. Each portion is called a sector. So this is a sector which represents Australia's portion or contribution to the proposed revenue share, which is given to us in million of US dollars. Now this could be with regard to their revenue share when they participate in the IPL. And India's share here is 19%. So the questions could be asked to you, by what percent is India's share more than or less than New Zealand's share, and so on. We will look at the types of questions. But to read the data, kindly know that pie chart would consist of the data in terms of percentages. The maximum obviously is 100%. The complete portion is considered to be 100%. So when you add all these percentage values, it should amount to 100%. Or the data could be given to you in degrees. And we know that the angle formed at the center of a circle is 360 degrees. So it could be given to you as, let us say, 60 degrees here, 30 degrees here, or a 45 degrees here, and so on. If required, we would convert these degrees into percentages, depending on the requirement of the question. But whenever the data is given to us in terms of degrees, please know that the sum of the degrees must amount to 360 degrees. Now, very importantly, categories of questions. Primarily, there are 2 categories that we would be talking about. One is calculations based, wherein you will have to find out the answer by performing calculations. and the other is observation based, wherein just by looking at the data represent, you would be in a position to find out the answer. Now, what are the requisites here? Various topics that you should be well versed with, should have a good command at. Most importantly, the percentages, then the concepts of ratio, averages, sometimes time and work, and time and distance as well. Now, previously I told you the most important topic here for you would be percentage, because if at all you are good at fraction to percentage and percentage to fraction conversions, you would be able to perform the calculations in no time. Let us say that you have to perform a calculation, and that is 42.84% of 71,428. How much does that amount to? Now, it will be very difficult for you to perform the actual calculations, because multiplying 42.84 with 71428 would be very tedious. And if you do not know the shortcut, that is when you come up with the thought that the paper was tough, the calculations were tedious, the paper was lengthy. But the point is, if we know that 42.84%, if we know that the fraction equivalent of 42.84% is 3 by 7, and you need to multiply it with 71428, you would find that 71428 is a number which is easily divisible by 7. So we will cut this by 7. So 1s are, then 2s are, and then 4s are. So it is 3 into 10204, which works out to be 30612, and this is the time that should be consumed while answering the questions. So, as we had seen during the discussion of the topic percentages, these conversions are very important. Primarily, we should know that 20% is 1 by 5, 25% is 1 by 4, and then you can interchange these two. You can also say that 5% is 1 by 20. This 5 goes to the left and 20 comes to the denominator. And similarly, 4%, you can always interchange these two. If 25% is 1 by 4, then 4% is 1 by 25. Some important conversions, 33.33%. Instead of that, you can use the fraction 1 by 3. 66.67%, we can make use of 2 by 3. Now let us take a particular group of percentage values and how we can convert them into the fraction equivalents. We know that 100% is equivalent to 1. Half of 100% is 50%, so it should be half. Half of 50% is 25%, so half of half is 1 by 4. And half of 25% is 12.5%. Again, half of 1 by 4 is 1 by 4 into 1 by 2, that is 1 by 8. Now, similarly, 6.25% is half of 12.5%, so that should be half of 1 by 8, or 1 by 8 multiplied with 1 by 2 should work out to be 1 by 16. Now, this particular group is very important because these percentage values are found in abundance in various questions. Now, let us have a look at another group. 100% is 1. 2/3 of that is 66.66%. That is 2 by 3. 1/3 of 100% is 33.33%. Let us say this is 1 by 3. Now, half of 33.33% is 16.67%, and half of 1 by 3 is 1 by 6. So this is another important group that you should remember. Now, moreover, 40% we know is 2 by 5, 60% we know is 3 by 5, 80% is 4 by 5. Now, if at all you have been asked to find out 45.45% of a particular value, you should be able to identify this as 5 by 11. 11 being in the denominator. When the numerator is multiplied by 9, what do you get? 5 into 9 is 45. Then a decimal. Then this 45 is repeated after the decimal, as you can see here. Now, similarly, if we need to find out 55.55% of a value, all these digits being the same, then you just need to put this digit in the numerator and divide it by 9. So this is 5 by 9. Also, if we need to find out 77.77% of a value, that would become 7 by 9. Now, this 77.77% is equivalent to 7 by 9. That is what its fraction equivalent is. But then if the choices are not very close and the question asks you to find out the approximate value, in that case, this 7 by 9 can also be used equivalent to 77%. It can also be used equivalent to 78%. Now kindly do not forget that if at all we have been asked to find out 125% of a particular value, it is actually nothing but 100% plus 25%. And we know that fraction equivalent of 100% is 1 and fraction equivalent of 25% is 1 by 4. So it is 1 plus 1 by 4, which works out to be 5 by 4. And if you remember, I had taught you a much easier technique that whatever is more than 100%, you take only that particular percentage point. Like 125% is 25% more than 100. And we know that 25% is equal to 1 by 4 as a fraction. So 125%. So if we need to find out the fractional equivalent for 125%, you just need to add the denominator to the numerator. This would still amount to 5 by 4. Now similarly, if we need to find out the fraction equivalent of 120%, so 120% is 20% more than 100%. So it is 100% plus 20%. 100% is 1 and 20% is 1 by 5. When we add these two, we get 6 by 5. And the shorter way of solving this would be, as 20% is 1 by 5, hence 120%, 100% points added to 20% will be nothing but you add up the denominator to the numerator, it becomes 6 by 5. Now it is very important for you to have a very good hand and good grip and grasp over the percentage to fraction equivalents or conversions, which we have discussed in detail in the video for the topic percentages. So kindly do go through that. Make sure that you have got a good grip over it so as to enable you to solve the questions based on data interpretation much more faster and accurately. Calculations will not be a problem at all. So if at all you have mastered these conversions from percentage to fractions, then certainly such seemingly long calculations would be solved in no time. Now, what kind of questions are asked? The usual question types are, as I am illustrating here. Well, the first type, by what percent is 88 greater than 66? By what percent is value x greater than value y? So, question would be used to get you to these two values, x and y, which are given to you in a table or a bar graph or a line graph or a pie chart. And then the question would be posed to you on these two values, that by what percent is value x greater than value y? So let us quantify these two values x and y and use certain values and use certain numbers. I'm using 88 and 66 here. So by what percent is 88 greater than 66? Now what does that mean? The difference of 88 and 66 we will take here. Now what should come in the denominator? 88 or 66? A very simple method I'll tell you. That is, whichever figure appears after the word than, to the right hand side of the word than and nearer to it. So what is to the right hand side of than? 66. So whichever figure appears to the right hand side of the word than, that needs to appear in the denominator. So this is all that we are looking for. Now 88 minus 66 by 66. This we know works out to be 22. 22, 66 goes by 3. So this is 1 by 3, which is nothing but 33.33%. Then the converse of the previous question. By what percent is value x lesser than value y? So by what percent is 66 lesser than 88? Again, we will take the difference here, because for taking lesser and greater, you will have to always take the difference. Now, this time after than, to the right side of the word than, we see figure 88 that would appear in the denominator into 100. So this becomes 22. This goes by 4. So this is 1 by 4 or 100 by 4. That happens to be 25%. Now 88 is what percent of 66? The value x is what percent of value y? Now I would like to repeat here that value x and value y are something that you would reach or you would find through the instructions which are given in the beginning of the question. Later on, the question would be posed in any of these manners. So we are looking at this particular type where 88 is what percent of 66. So 88 is what percent of 66? 88 by 66 into 100. Now this goes by 4, this goes by 3. So we are just bothered about the fraction 4 by 3. Now 4 by 3 you know is 1 plus 1 by 3. 1 you know is 100%. 1 by 3 you know is 33.33%. So the answer here is 133.33%. So 88 is 133.33% of the value 66. Now 66 is what percent of 88? So out of 88, how much is 66 as a percentage? So 66 by 88 into 100. Now 22 into 3, 22 into 4. So you have the fraction 3 by 4 and the percentage equivalent for this is 75%. Now look at this particular type. By what percent is 88 greater than the average of 88 and 66? Now see, another complexity has been included here, and that is average. Finding out the average of 88 and 66 is quite simple, and that is 77. So by what percent is 88 greater than 77? So it is 88 minus 77 by than the average. And how much is the average? 77. So after than, the figure appearing here is 77. That should go in the denominator. So simply this is 11 by 77, which is 1 by 7. And for any number which has number 7 in the denominator, if you remember from the percentage chapter, you have to double the numerator and then multiply with 7. So 7 into 2 is 14, and then double the 14 to get 28. So 14.28% shall be the answer here. Now by what percent is 66 lesser than the average of 88 and 66? Once again, the average here is 77. So 77 minus 66 by than 77. So 77 goes to the denominator. So this is 11 by 77. Again 1 by 7, which is 14.28% as we have already discussed here. Now what is the ratio between 66 and 88? Ratio between 66 and 88? Both these numbers are divisible by a common number, that is 22. So 22 into 3 and 22 into 4. So the required ratio here is 3:4. So between two quantities, you may be asked to find out the ratio. Now what is the ratio between the sum of 88 and 66 and the difference between 144 and 354? So sum of 88 and 66 works out to be 154. And the difference between 144 and 354 works out to be 210. Now both these figures are divisible by 7, hence are divisible by 14, because these two numbers are even numbers. So any even number which is divisible by 7 must be divisible by 14 as well. So 14 ones are 14, 14 ones are 14, again 14 ones are 14, 70, so 14 fives are 70. So 11:15 will be the desired ratio. Now, especially in the questions which are based on data interpretation, the procedure, the method to solve the questions involves the characteristics of the group of choices which is given to you. Now, by looking at the choices, you can take a very vital decision, and that is, till what extent can I approximate? If the choices are very close to each other, the numbers having very less difference between them in the four choices, the scope of approximation would be the least. But if the difference between the four numbers which are given to you among the choices is quite high, the scope for approximation will be more. So more the difference between the choices, more will be the scope for approximation, which means lesser calculation. And lesser the difference, lesser will be the scope of approximation, which means more calculation. So the effort required to perform the calculations is actually going to be inversely proportional to the scope of approximation, or let us say is inversely proportional to the nearness of the choices. So if choices are very near to each other, the effort involved will be more. If the choices are quite far from each other, then the effort involved will be quite less. So it depends whether the difference in the values is high, so high difference in values, or medium difference, or low difference. We will take an instance to devise or design an approach for each of these types of choices. Now let us have a look at a question here. We have been given a table which shows the turnover of a company in various years, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. And there are four companies, in fact, ABCD, and their turnovers are given to you for various years. Now the question asked here is, company B's turnover in the year 2004 is approximately what percent of company B's turnover in the year 2002? First of all, we will find out these two figures, that is value X and value Y. So D's turnover in 2004. Let's go to 2004 and company D. So The intersection is here, 68.5. So this is 68.5. And company B's turnover in 2002. So this is 2002 and this is company B. This is the intersection. So the value that we obtain here is 335. Now, in a simplistic way, we can state that the question is asking us that 68.5 is what percent of 335? That's it. Now, rather than immediately taking a plunge into the question and immediately taking off with the calculations, kindly have a look at the choices. Now, I'm giving you one set here. Set 1 says 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 110%. I've given you 5 choices in fact here. Now, if you look at 68.5 and 335, we should be able to find out that 68.5 somewhere into 5 nearly should be 335. There is no none of these here. And the question is saying approximately. Because we know that if this would have been 60 into 5, it would give us a 300. If it would have been 66 into 5, we would receive 330. And this is 68.5 by 335. So nearly 66, nearly 330, nearly 1 by 5. So nearly 20% approximately. So these 4 cannot be your answer. Your answer has to be A. So rather than performing the actual calculation, kindly remember that you are not supposed to provide the examiner with the exact answer. You're just supposed to choose the correct choice as the answer, which will earn you 2.5 marks. But what if you are given set 2? Again, the choices seem to be quite close here, isn't it? So 20%, 25%, 30%, 35%, 40% when compared with set 1. So once again, you are only bothered about 68.5 by 335. At the most, what you should do here is you find out what is 68.5 into 5. 5 5s are 25, 8 5s are 40. So 2 here, 6 5s are 30, so 34. So works out to be 342.5. So actually speaking, this 68.5 by 335 is equivalent to 1 by a figure which is a little less than 5. If this figure would have been equal to 1 by 5, your answer would be 20%. If it is 1 by 6, your answer is going to be lesser than 20%. If it is 1 by 4.9 or 4.8, then your answer will be more than 20%. Lesser the denominator, greater the value. So hence, it is very near to 20%. This is something that we can judge. And approximately is the word used. So we need to compare between 20% and 25%. The answer is closer to 20%. Hence, that is the answer. So some guesswork can be done here by just estimating the fractional value of this calculation. And out of the given choices, if there are 2 choices which are close enough, the approximation method that we are using here would actually be very useful in choosing the answer, provided the last choice doesn't say none of these. Whenever in any question none of these is given to us, please make sure that you solve that question completely. You cannot play around with choices. Alright, I bring you the set 3, in which these 5 choices are very, very close to each other. See, 20.33, 20.39, 20.45, 20.56, 20.87. So this demands actual division. So be it. We learned division way back in the elementary school. So why should you be afraid of division? And the best part is, when you are dividing, then the first 2 digits are anyhow going to be 20. So directly you multiply with 20 to get the first few figures. So by that what I mean is that 6850, because this would be multiplied with 100 here, has to be divided by, let us say, 335. Directly you multiply it with 20. So 335, double of that is 670. 6700 is what we are getting here. Take the difference, you get 150 here. So you increase it by 0 because you got a decimal point. Now this 1500 will go by how much? By 335. If the divisor would have been 300, then 1500 will go by 300 into 5. But the divisor is 335. So 1500 has to go by a lesser value than 5. So let us say 4. So let's try that. So 4 5s are 20, 4 3s are 12, so 14, 4 3s are 12, so 13. So the difference works out to be 160. So we have the first digit after the decimal. And there is only one choice which has digit 4 after the decimal mark. If this third digit would have been 3. Then we had two choices to choose from. Whereas here we have only one choice in which the third digit is 4. So there is absolutely no requirement for us to find out the next number in the sequence. So 20 was quite simple. We could just simply multiply it with 20. So all that we needed to do here was to find out this third digit, which comes out to be 4, which is given to us in choice C. That becomes the answer. So as you see here with these three sets, high difference, medium difference and low difference, that your approach will be different when you solve the questions and you perform the calculations. So it is all about approximation, and that decision you will take only after looking at the choices, what kind of differences are there in the choices, large, medium or low. Now let's have a look at this question. Company A's turnover in the year 2003 is approximately what percent more than the turnover of company C in the year 2002. So A's turnover in 2003, we go to year 2003. This is company A, so we get the figure 441 here. Now the second figure that we need to find out is for company C in the year 2002. This is 2002, this is company C, intersection 330. So 330 is what we get as the second figure. So now the question can be reduced to the form that 441 is approximately what percent more than 330. That's it. So what do? So this is 441 minus 330 than 330. So after the word than, the figure that appears is 330. That goes into the denominator. So 441 minus 330 would give us a figure that is 111 by 330. Now 111 into 3 is 333. And this 330 is quite near to 333. So we can say that this is very near to the fractional equivalent, that is 1 by 3, which is equal to 33.3% given to us in choice D. Now look at the choices here. One thing for sure, your answer is above 30%. So choice A and choice B cannot be the answer. Use the elimination process here. And if this value would have been 111 by 333, the exact value would become 33.3%, whereas 330 is very minutely lesser than 333, quite near to it. So you can always assume it to be equivalent to 333 while performing calculations. So this way, you can reach to the answer in no time using approximation. And remember, it's all about choosing the correct choice. It's not about delivering the exact answer. So you need not perform calculations. Now, by what percent is company C's turnover in the year 2004 less than company B's turnover in the year 2001? So the first figure is company C's turnover in the year 2004. So 2004, company C, the value here is 350. And B's turnover in 2001, company B, the value here is 450. Now the question gets reduced to the form that by what percent is 350 less than 450? That's it. So 450 minus 350 than 450. So hence the figure 450 comes into the denominator. So this becomes 100 by 450. Zeros cancel. So 5 2s are 10, 5 9s are 45. So 2 by 9 we know is 22.22%, because whenever in a fraction digit 9 is present in the denominator, then whatever digit is present in the numerator, you write it twice, put a decimal mark and repeat the two digits. That is, 2 is given to us in the numerator. So 22.22 is what we get. Now similarly, if our answer here would have been 4 by 9, that would be equivalent to 44.44%. So we have already discussed this concept in the chapter of percentages, but I'm just repeating it here for your knowledge. Now 22.22% is given to us clearly in choice B, which becomes the answer. Now what is the ratio between company A's turnover in the year 2002 to company D's turnover in the year 2003? Now first of all, let us find out the first figure. Company A's turnover in 2002. This is 2002. This is company A, intersection 334. And then company D's turnover in 2003. So this is D, this is 2003, 145. So the question is now reduced to the form that what is the ratio between 334 and 145? So 334 and 145 is what we are looking at here. Now see, double of 145, easily we can find out that it works out to be 290. So this 334 here is 2 point something times 145. So A cannot be the answer because double of 145 is 290 and 334 is quite larger or greater than 290. B cannot be the answer because the first figure has to be higher, it is 334. The second figure has to be lesser, that is 145. So B is out. In choice C, which says 7:4, once again we find out that 4 into 2 is anyhow 8 and the 7 here is lesser than 8. The first figure, 334, is more than the double of 145. So 2.3:1 is not to be calculated, but it is supposed to be arrived at as the answer by eliminating the first 3 choices. And just by considering the fact that 334 is more than double of 145, so the required ratio will be 2 point something is to 1. And that's exactly what we get in choice D. And that's why I'm still insisting that you must look at choices while designing or devising your approach to solve the questions so that you don't lose time. Now, what was the average turnover of all the 4 companies taken together for the year 2002? Now, look at the choices. 335, 334, 333, 336. Absolutely close. So here the choices are not going to be helpful at all. You will have to perform the actual calculation. So let's go to the year 2002. Now, what is average? Average we know is sum of quantities by number of quantities. So we will add all these quantities together. 4 and 5 and 1 works out to be 10. So 3 and 1, 4 and 3, 7, 10, 14. We have another 1 here. So 3 4s are 12. 1 3 4 0. So 1 3 4 0 divided by 4. 4 3s are 12. 14. 4 3s are 12. 20. So 335. So 335 works out to be the answer, which is given in choice C. Now, this is a standard way of solving the question. Now, another way of solving the question would be by weighted average. That is, you are assuming that 335 is the average of these 4 figures. Now, 334 is 1 less, so minus 1. 330 is 5 less, so minus 5. And 341 is 6 more. So minus 1 and minus 5 is minus 6. And 341 and 6 more, so plus 6. So minus 6 plus 6 balances 335 becomes your average. So this way, you can reduce the time and effort which is involved in calculation and still you arrive at the answer. Now, which company exhibited a trend of continuous growth for the period 2001 to 2004? So, exhibited means that this has to be an observation-based question wherein you don't have to perform any calculation. You just need to observe the trend, whether it is continuously increasing, which would mean that there is a continuous growth. So, figures should be in ascending order. So for company A, 256 is lesser than 334, which is a greater number. It should be lesser than 441. Yes, it is a greater number, which is lesser than 452. Yes, A is correct. So we have already found out our answer. Choice D is the correct answer. Well, why not B, C and D, let us say? Well, 450 is not lesser than 335. It is greater. So there is not an increment or increase in the value which is exhibited. So hence, we cannot say that the turnover showed a trend in which there was a continuous growth. In C also, same thing happens. 345 is not lesser than 330. It is greater than 330. And 229, although is lesser than 341 for D, 341 is not lesser than 145. It is greater. So this happens only in A. So choice D is the answer. Now, which company maintained not more than 5% growth or decline in its turnover over the previous year from 2001 to 2004? Not more than 5%. So the maximum here is 5%. So whatever, let us say, is growth over the previous year, it has to be less than or equal to 5% over the previous year. Now, first of all, let's go to D, 229 to 341. Well, forget about 5%. Take 10%. 10% of 229 will be 22.9. This will be the 10%. Now, even if you add 22.9, let us say 23 to 229, it will be still 252. Whereas in the next year, the turnover was 341. So the growth has been much more than 10%. So obviously it is going to be more than 5%. And what the question demands, not more than 5%. Finding out 10% of a quantity is very simple. You just have to shift the decimal one place to the left side. So we cannot have D here. Let's talk about C. 345 to 330. Okay, now what is 10% of 345? We know it is 34.5. So how much will be 5%? Half of this. That is 17.25. So from 345 to 330, the difference is 15. So the difference is lesser than 17.25, which is 5% of 345. All right. Now, how much will be 5% of 330? Well, 10% of 330 we know is 33. So 5% is going to be half of this. That is 16.5. Difference between 330 and 355 is of 25. Now this 25 is greater than 16.5. And 16.5 is 5%. So this 25 has to be more than 5% of 330. So it clearly means that here the growth has been more than 5%, whereas we want a company which has maintained not more than 5% growth or decline over the previous year for the complete period 2001 to 2004. So even choice B cannot be the answer. That is, company C cannot be the answer. Now look at B. Yes, a little bit of calculation is involved, but this is not very huge. Because when you look at 450 to 335, you know that 10% of 450 is 45. And difference between 450 and 335 is more than 100. So again, there is a decline which is more than 5%. We do not want to know how much is that decline. Whether it is 12%, 15%, 17%, we are not bothered about that. It should not be more than 5%. It is working out to be more. So even B is not that company. Choice C is not the answer. So none of these is correct. And we are still not bothered whether A is exhibiting this particular pattern or trend or not. We just know that choice A, B and C cannot be the answer. Hence none of these. Choice D is the correct answer. Now, which company has the maximum average turnover from 2001 to 2004? Well, average we know is sum of quantities by number of quantities. The number of quantities in each case is same, that is 4. So all that we need to find out is the sum of quantities. Whichever has the maximum sum will be the answer. So for company A, let us just add these numbers, and when we add these numbers, kindly make sure that you add 2-digit numbers at the same time. So 56 plus 34 is 90, plus 41 is 131, plus 52 is 183. So you get an 83 here. So 1 becomes carryover. So 4 plus 1 carryover is 5, plus 4 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So the total works out here to be 1483. Now for company B, 50 plus 35 plus 55 is 90, plus 50 is 140. So 40 you get here, 1 carryover. So 4 and 1, 5 and 3, 8, 10, 13. So 13, 40. So obviously B cannot be the answer. It cannot have the maximum average turnover. C, you know, it is 3 into 4, that is 1200 already. But then 45 plus 55 is 100. 30 plus 50 is 80, so 180. And 1 gets carried over, so 12 plus 1, 13. So it works out to be 1380. And just by looking, so C also cannot be the answer here. So hence choice B is eliminated. And just by looking at these numbers, you know, even if I make this as 250 and this is 350 and this is 150 and this is 100, even if we do that, 250 plus 350, even if I increase these figures, it is 600 and 750, 850. I mean, it is anyhow going to be lesser than the total turnover of A. So even D cannot be the answer. We don't need the exact number. What we need to determine is whether this sum can be the answer or not. So our answer here is choice D. Minimize your calculations. Go by estimation. Go by approximation. That is where time is saved. That is where number of attempts will increase. Now, in which year was the average turnover of all the 4 companies put together the highest? Once again, average is nothing but it is sum of the quantities by number of quantities. Number here is 4. It is common for each of the years because we have 4 companies. So in whichever year the combined turnover of all the 4 companies was the maximum, that becomes our answer. So let us perform the calculations in actual. So 56 plus 50 is 106, plus 45 is 151, plus 29 is 180. So we get an 80 here. 1 gets carried over. So 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 2, that is 12. So 1280 is what we get here. Now for 2002, 34, 35, 30 and 41. Now 34 and 35 is 69. Add 41 to it. So we get a complement of 10 here in the units place. So 69 plus 41 is 110. Plus 30 is 140. And 3 fours are 12. Plus 1 is 30. So 1340 is what we get here. Now 41 plus 55 you can do first, and that is 110. Plus 41 is 151. Plus 45 will be 196. 1 gets carried over. So 5, 7, 10 and 11. And 2004, we have a 0.5 here. It basically seems to be a quantity which is quite less, because 5 plus 8 will give you a carryover here, and this will become 5 and 3, 8 and 3, 11. So it is going to be 1100 and something. Anyhow, that cannot be the maximum. The highest here has to be 1340, which is for the year 2002. That becomes the answer. So I just simply avoided adding up all the 4 numbers for 2004, because I know it is something which is not going to amount more than 1340. It is going to be lesser than that. Then why is it that we need to add those numbers when we can judge by just looking at those 4 numbers that they cannot amount to a sum which is greater than 1340? It's going to be lesser anyhow. So take that estimate in your mind. You must practice in such a way so that when you look at the numbers, you will be able to gauge that the sum would be around this much. And if the difference is huge, as it is here, it's working out to be 1100 something, and here it is 1340. And obviously, you need not waste your time performing the exact calculation. So hence, we get choice B here as the answer. Now, which of the following statements is not true? Not true means false. Please make sure that you convert not true into false, and just keep that word in your mind. So which of the following statements is false regarding the turnover of the 4 companies for the given period? So we will have to verify each of the 4 statements. That's how it seems. So company D recorded the maximum growth percent and decline percent in a particular year over the previous year. This means that you will have to work out. So what you can do in the examination, when you find that there are 4 or 5 questions, there is a group of questions, and if you find that one question demands more calculation, push it either towards the end of your sequence of attempt, or else you can leave it, because you have 80 questions and you're not going to solve all the 80 questions. And moreover, this is a qualifying examination in which you just need to score 66 marks. So out of 80 questions, if at all you have attempted 60 plus with an accuracy of 80%, then you're going to be through. So concentrate more on increasing your number of attempts. But anyhow, we should know what should be the method in solving such questions. So for every pair of numbers, we may have to find out the percentage value. But when he says D recorded maximum growth and decline percent, then you have to just find out the pairs of consecutive years which have maximum difference between their turnovers and the least difference between their turnovers. The maximum increase in turnover for the company D happened from 2001 to 2002. That is from 229 to 341. So 341 and 229, this has a difference of 112. Now 112 by 229. 112 into 2 is 224. So nearly half. That is 50%. So here there is an increase of nearly 50%. Or let's say a little lesser than 50%. Maybe 48, 49%. Now for A, B and C, these 3 companies, do you see a 50% or near about 50% increase from one year to the other? Well, from A 256 to 334, no, because half of 256 will be 128. When added to 256 cannot amount to 334. 334 to 441 again, no. 441 to 452 is not possible at all. Now 450 to 335 is a decline. 255 from 335 is a decline. 255 to 300 also, it's not a 50% increase. 345 to 330, 355, 350, these are all very close figures, so nothing doing. So as far as maximum growth percent is concerned, we agree. Now let us talk about maximum decline percent. from a higher figure, there is a drop to lower figure, which is happening from 341 to 145. How much is the drop? 341 to 145, so 6, 9, and 1, 196. So 341 to 145, there is a decline of 196. And the half of 341 is 170.5. So it is more than 50% decline. Now, when we look at declines for the other companies, 256 to 334 to 441, 452, there is no decline. 450 to 335, there is a decline of 115. Now, 50% of 450 is 225. No, the decline is definitely lesser than 50%. 335 to 255 also, the decline is lesser than 50% because 50% of 335 is a little greater than 165. And here the decline is not even 100. 255 to 300, there is no decline. 345, 330, very close to each other. So even this is fine. So both these parameters happen to be correct for D. So as the statement given in choice A is true, hence it cannot be our answer. Why? Because we need a statement which is false. Now let's have a look at the statement which is given to us in choice B. A company B recorded the second highest decline in the turnover amount over the previous year for any year. Now here it was quite evident that the second highest decline could have been from 145 to 68.5 for company D. For company B, the decline is from 450 to 335 or 335 to 255. 450 to 335, the decline is 115. 335 to 255, the decline is 80. Whereas for D, if we look at 145 to 68.5, the decline is 76.5. Now the half of 145 is anyhow 72.5. So for company D, there are two declines which are more than 50%. One is from 341 to 145 and the other is from 145 to 68.5. So the second highest decline will also happen for company D, but not for company B. So the statement given here in choice B happens to be false and hence should be our answer because we are searching for a statement which is false. Now let us find out why choice C is true. Now the total turnover of a company in 4 years was the same as the total turnover done in a particular year. Well, we already found that out in the previous slide that the sum of the turnover done by all the 4 companies together in 2002 was 1340 and the turnover done by company B in these 4 years, 2001 to 2004, also worked out to be 1340. So this statement is true, and because it is true and because we are looking for a statement which is not true, that is, it must be false, that is why C cannot be the answer. And why D cannot be the answer? The combined turnover of company A in 2001 and company B in 2002 is approximately 40% more than the combined turnover of company C in 2003, that is 355, and company D in 2004, that is 68.5. So A plus B we are getting here as 256 plus 335, which works out to be 591, and C plus D works out to be 355 plus 68.5, which works out to be 423.5. Now the difference between the two here is 591.0 minus 423.5. The difference gives you 0.5. Here 7, a 6 and a 1. 167.5. Although we need not check choice C and D because we already found out that the statement given in choice B is incorrect. But anyhow, if that statement was given in choice D, then we will anyhow have to verify the statements given in choices A, B and C. So let us find out how we could have verified each of these statements, what method or procedure we would have adopted. So a simple division, this is the difference between the two, more than C plus D, that is 423.5. So you get a 423.5 here. So directly try for 4 because 4 times is what we are looking at, 40% increase. So 4 5s are 20, 4 3s are 12. So a 4 here, 14, 4 2s are 8. A 9 here and 4 4s are 16. Now this is approximately 40%, quite near. The difference here is very less, I would say, of minus 190. Alright, so it's very near to 40%, we can say that. So that is why even statement given to us in choice D, it says approximately 40% more. The word approximately is already given to us here. This statement is true, hence choice D cannot be the answer. We finalize B as the answer. All right, let's have a look at this question, which is based on bar graph. Now, what is it all about? In the graph, the data to produce three types of tires, X, Y, and Z, is shown from 1999 to 2002. So 4 years, as is given here, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. And production of tires is given in lakhs. It is given here in y-axis. The legends are clearly mentioned, and the best part is the figures are mentioned here. All right, so we don't need to put in an effort to find out the extent of value to which an individual bar rises. Now let's go to the question. From 2000 to 2001, by what percent did the production of tire Y decrease? So let's first of all locate 2000, 2001. This is tire Y, exactly in between. Here it is 30, here it is 25. The difference here is 5. So it decreased by 5, and decrease or increase is always over the value in the previous year. So previous year value here is 30. So 5 by 30 we know is 1 by 6. 1 by 6 we know is 16.67%, which is given to us in choice B. That becomes the answer. Now in years 2001 and 2002, well, we are talking about the last 2 years here. What was the difference in the production of tire Z? So tire Z happens to be the last one here. So the difference was from 25 to 20. So clearly the difference is of 5 lakh. A very simple question. So choice C here is the correct answer. Hardly any calculation involved, just an observation based question. Now in which year was the percent production of tire Y more than that of tire Z by the greatest margin? Now here some calculation is involved. Now let's visit year 1999. Tire Y production is 20, tire Z production is 30. So obviously the production of tire Y is lesser than the production of tire Z. It is not more than tire Z. Whereas the question says, in which year was the percent production of tire Y more than that of tire Z? It's not more, it is less. So 99 cannot be considered. So choice A doesn't follow here. It can be eliminated very easily. Now let's move on to year 2000. Tire Y is 30, tire Z is 25. So difference is 5. So the difference here is 5. And it is more than tire Z. So 5 by 25, that is 1 by 5. Here tire Y is 20% more. Now in the year 2001, there is no increase because 25 and 25 equal figures are given for tire Y and Z respectively. So anyhow 2001 can be eliminated here because there is no increase. Both the tires have equal productions. Whereas it is clearly, it can be seen here that the difference between 35 and 20 is 15. In fact, this can be solved just by observation. So 2002 should be the correct answer here because the difference here is going to be 15 by 20, which is 3 by 4, that is 75%. Anyhow, just by looking at this margin, we can answer the question. There is no need for us to even do this calculation also. So choice D here should be the correct answer. Now look at this pie chart. The given pie chart shows the distribution of marks secured by a student in exams conducted for various subjects. If the total marks of all the subjects together is 600, it's already given, then answer the following questions. Now let's have a look at the pie chart. Subjects are mentioned: maths, English, Hindi, science, social science, and the portions are indicated in degrees. So you need not immediately convert these degrees into percentages, that's not required. And which subject did the student score 125 marks? Now look at the choices. There is no need to calculate the marks scored by the student for each subject. We only need the marks scored for the given subjects and the choices. So maths is 90 degrees. So it is 90 by 360 into 600. 90 is how much of 360? It is 1/4. 1/4 of 600 is 150. We need 125. So A cannot be the answer. Look at B. Science. Science is 75 degrees. So 75 by 360 into 600. Let's remove this. So goes by 12 threes and 12 fives. So this goes by 3 twos and 5s. So 25 into 5. Yes, 125. But science here is 75 degrees as you can see here. And similarly, social science is also 75 degrees. So in that case, the student must have scored 125 marks in social science as well as science, and this is given to us in choice D, which says both B and C. So hence, choice D here would be the correct answer. Please look at all the 4 choices before you decide on to mark your answer. How many marks did the student score more in maths when compared with science? Now see, the degree component of science is 75 degrees and that of maths is 90 degrees. Now the difference here is 90 degrees minus 75 degrees, that is 15 degrees. And the question says how many marks did the student score more in maths when compared with science? So 15 degrees more. So 15 by 360, let's find out the marks. Zeros cancel, 12 3s are, 12 5s are, 3 5s are. So 5 into 5, 25 should be your answer, which is given in choice C. Now, how many marks in total did the student score in social science and maths together? Well, in social science and maths together. So first of all, please know that you need not calculate the actual marks scored by the student in social science and actual marks scored by the student in maths. But we will instead add up the 2 degree components, that is 90 degrees and 75 degrees, which is 165 degrees. So 165 by 360 into 600, zeros cancel, 3s are, 5s are, and this is 3 5s are 15, 3 5s are 15, so 55 into 5, 5 5s are 25, so 275 should be the correct answer. Now, if you have seen the very first question, we found out that maths 90 degrees works out to be 150 and social science works out to be 125. So even by adding these two together, directly you can get 275 if you have preserved the rough work. Now, having said that, kindly remember that unless you have finished the complete set of the questions, do not erase any rough work that you have done in the first, second or third question. Let us say in a set of 5 questions. Preserve all the rough work. You might need it in the next question. And if at all you erase, then in that case, you will have to rework it out. That's an important bit that you must remember. So 275 maths and social science is not given in the first 3 choices. So choice D here should be the correct answer. Now the line chart given below shows the number of students admitted. We have a line graph here, a multiple line graph, a double line graph, as can be seen here. So number of students admitted in the school and the number of students who left the school from year 2003 to 2008. So 2003 to 2008, this is the window. The total number of students in the year 2002, that is at the beginning here, were 1500. Now this blue line here, this one, this shows students admitted, and this dotted line represented by triangular points indicates the number of students who have left the school. So when he's asking from 2004 to 2005, what was the increase or decrease in the number of students, we will have to find out for each of the years. In fact, we know that 250 students were admitted and 350 students left in 2004. Whereas 500 were admitted and 400 students left in 2005. So from 2004, whatever may be the number of students here, the difference of 100 which is given here is the actual increase in the number of students from 2004 to 2005. So simply we get 100 here as the answer, and that too an increase of 100 students. Now what was the number of students in the school in the year 2006? So you have to start from the start. Here in 2002, there were a total 1500 students. So 300 admitted and 250 left the school. That means the net result is that the number of students increased by 50. In the next year, 350 left, 250 admitted, net effect is minus 100. So here from 1500, the number of students became 1550, minus 100 is 1450. 2005, 500 admitted, 400 left, so net effect is plus 100. So 1450 plus 100 is again 1550. And in 2006, 450 admitted and 300 left. Net effect is plus 150, more number of students. So 1550 plus 150, 1700 should be the number of students in the year 2006. Now this you can do actually by adding up all the number of students admitted and from that subtracting all the number of students who left. The same things we did. Now rather than doing this, in fact, take the differences offhand and just keep on adding up or subtracting the differences. In the school, the number of students in the year 2006, that is, we found out in the last slide that it was 1700, is what percent of the number of students in the year 2004? So let's go back to the previous slide In 2004, the number of students was 1450. So 2004, the number of students is 1450, and 1700, that is the number of students in 2006, is what percent of the number of students in 2004? That is 1450. We have solved such kind of questions. Initially itself, I had illustrated this type. 2006, 1700 students, 2004, 1450. So 1700 is what percent of 1450? And this is nearly 117% approximately. Now look at this set of questions wherein a table is given which shows the production of grains in a state from the year 2008 to 2012. You have to study the table and answer the questions that follow. So please observe the data which is given to you here. Years are given from 2008 to 2012. So total 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 years. And 4 commodities are given: wheat, rice, maize, others. And the total production of all these commodities during the years in total. This is the information which is provided to us. So you must have good grip over the information which is given to you here. In the year 2011, the production of which grain was the most as compared to the last year? So let's go to 2011. This is 2011. So over the last year, how much was the increment? 80. Here, 60. Obviously here, it is the highest. 228 to 380. You don't even need to calculate here. And it happens to be for maize, which happens to be the answer here. In which year was the production of grains improving the least as compared to the previous year? Now clearly we see that from 1250 to 1454, there is an increase. From 1454 to 1448, there is a decline or decrease. From 1448 to 1820, there is an increase. Again, 1820 to 1960, there is an increase. The decline happens here in 2010 when compared to the previous year, 2009. So obviously the improvement is the least. It is a decline basically. So this happens in 2010. That should be our answer here. So as you can see, this is just an observation-based question. No calculation required as such. In the year 2012, by what percent did the production of wheat increase over the last year? Let's go to 2012. And wheat, 860 over the last year. The production was 680. So 860 minus 680 should be a 180 here. So 180 and the previous year was 680. So over the last year only the increase or decrease is taken. Into 100. So zeros cancel here. 4 into 17 is 68. And here 4 4s are 16, 4 5s are 20. So 450 by 17 is what we get, which works out to be 26.47%. You can perform the calculations, but then as I told you, it depends on the choices and whether the word approximation is given or not. So here I'm insisting on you finding out the answer rather than just using the choices always, because you should never feel uncomfortable while performing such calculations. It is all about division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, very elementary mathematics. And don't say it is time consuming. Time consuming is because you have less practice. And never ever tell yourself my maths is weak. That is half of the battle lost. When you tell yourself I'm not good at something. Alright, anyhow, let's move ahead. Now the table given below gives the details of production of cars by company ABC in the first half of 2012. Now study the table and answer the questions that follow. Let's look at the table. Months are given here horizontally in the first row: Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June. 6 months. Types of cars: X, Y, Z and T. 4 types in total are given and their total production is also mentioned. Now in which month of the year was the total combined production of all the cars the least? Least is what we need. Well, you just need to look at these figures: 100, 105, 108, 110, 110, 90. 90 is the least of all these numbers, which is for the month June. So in the month of June, the combined production of all the cars is the least. So June becomes the answer. Now, in which month was the number of cars for each type produced by the company the same? Again, an observation-based question. Very easily, it can be observed that in the month of January, the number of cars produced for each type happened to be the same. That is 25 in each case: 25, 27, 26, 18, 50, 40, 45. No other month actually exhibits this particular characteristic. So quite simple for us to observe and answer the question. Now, in the first half of the year 2012, what was the total number of cars produced by the company? So actually, what do you need to do? You just need to add up all these figures, isn't it so? So look at the hundreds. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 500s you already have, isn't it so? Then you have a 5 and an 8, 13, plus 10, 23, 33, and 90. That is 123. So in total, 623 shall be the total number of cars produced by the company in the first half, that is from Jan to June, for 6 months of the year. Now, in which 2 months the total number of cars produced was the same? Again, an observation-based question happens in April and May. In each of these months, the total number of cars produced was 110. So more of observation-based questions, so that we have had enough practice on observation-based and calculation-based questions. And now we are acquainted with all the type of questions, our approach, how to use choices, what level we should approximate, how to approximate, and take the nearest fraction to percentage value or vice versa. Also, we looked at various ways of data represents, that is the tables, bar graph, line graphs, and pie charts. So that brings us to the end of this session. Please do practice. We will meet again in the next session and discuss another topic. Till then, our best wishes are there with you. Please work hard and stay safe. Thank you so much.